Hello everyone, AmyR here with Prairie Paper and Ink, and here are two of the cards I made with the new January 2017 card kit from Simon Says Stamp. I will have all the supplies listed individually as well because these card kits sell out super quickly. So I'm starting off with the Frozen Fractals stamp set, and I had two pieces of cardstock. One of them is cotton candy cardstock, the other one is the new cornflower blue cardstock from Simon Says. And I just laid out the snowflakes I wanted to use on these pieces that I'd already die cut with the stitched rectangles dies from Simon Says. And then I'm inking these up with the Delicata, white shimmer ink. So mine is not very pigmented. I honestly think though it's because it froze solid when this kit was delivered. It was in my P.O. box and it was more than 30 below Celsius. So it froze solid, and I do know with pigment inks a lot of times that can almost, basically it almost separates them. So I probably could, if I mushed it really, if you mush it really well, or use the edge of a credit card or different things, you can kind of work the ink back up into the ink pad. But as usual, I'm just flying by the seat of my pants. So I wanted to do this anyway, so it didn't bother me the way the ink pad was. I pulled out my Perfect Pearls in Perfect Pearl, and I am brushing that over these stamped snowflakes, and that ink picks up the powder, and it just creates this gorgeous, shimmery image. It's just beautiful. And with Perfect Pearls powder, they have a binder in the powder, so you don't need to use any sort of setting sprays or anything. Like, these will just bind to the ink as it dries, and it's not going to come off. I've had people asking about other, they have mica powders in their stash, different things. Those are completely different in a way. You would have to use some sort of binding agent or a spray or something to set them, because once the ink dries, there's nothing binding them to that ink. So that's why I like the Perfect Pearls. I highly recommend them. This is just a match made in heaven. The white shimmer ink and the Perfect Pearl powder and Perfect Pearl is just beautiful. So I did that to both pieces, and then I die cut some of the pattern paper that comes, it's exclusive to the kit for as much as I know. I couldn't find it anywhere else. So I die cut that with a larger one of the stitch rectangles dies. And then for my sentiments, I'm using this, they call it parchment paper. I just look at it and see vellum. I don't know what the difference is, but I use the blue-gray parchment paper, and I'm stamping the sentiments with that same Delicata ink, but I'm just using that as just to stamp it so I can use my Ranger Super Fine Detail White Embossing Powder. And then I let my heat tool heat up just a little bit before bringing it to that parchment paper, and then quickly melted the sentiment. And then I'm going to trim that with my paper trimmer. And I did that twice. I used both little sentiments from the set. And then once I had that, I've got my card bases, which is the same cotton candy and cornflower blue cardstocks. And I just cut the sheets in half that came in the kit and scored them at 5.5 inches. So they're top folding A2 size cards. So 4.25 by 5.5 inches. And I just used my Fiskars cutter and my Simon Says Teflon bone folder to do that. And then for the insides of these cards, I'm using the larger little sentiment that comes in the set and the little companion one. And I just lined them up so I could have them both on the acrylic block at the same time so I can stamp them at once. And I'm going to treat the insides with my anti-static powder tool. I've got a lot of questions as well about this lately. Sometimes it gets a bit clogged. I just pop the top off a little bit. Like you saw, I barely opened it fully because the powder starts to drop out. But when I want to use a decent amount of powder, I just do that. Wiggle the top off a little bit, some powder will drop off, and that works perfectly. Especially when I'm stamping a really detailed image or sentiment like this, I wanted to make sure to use a lot of anti-static powder. So I inked up the sentiment with the same Delicata ink, and then use that same super fine detail white embossing powder. This is by Ranger. It is the finest detail I have ever used, other than turning it to straight powder. This detail powder is insanely fine. So it works perfectly for sentiments like this or something that has a lot of fine detail. So I heated up both of those with my heat tool. And then I just used my Swiffer cloth to wipe away the excess anti-static powder. That's also what I used on the pieces with the snowflakes. And I'm going to use it again here. The Swiffer cloth is just perfect because it picks up all the excess powder without smearing anything. And I've been using the same Swiffer cloth now for, over a year. I just either keep folding it over or cutting off little pieces as I need them. So I'm going to ink up some of the snowflakes from the set and just stamp them on the insides of these cards, and then do the same thing. Pick up a little bit of that Perfect Pearls powder with the brush and then brush it onto these snowflakes just to make them pop. It just creates like the most gorgeous shimmer. I've gone on and on about this the last few videos, but I just love it. So brush that on, and then grabbed my little Swiffer cloth again and just folded that over, and I'm going to brush off all that excess Perfect Pearls powder. So once that's all brushed off, it gets kind of on my workspace too, but I just wipe that off with a baby wipe once I'm done. I don't mind the shimmer. And then I'm going to take these sentiments on little parchment paper, and I'm going to fold these over each of the snowflake pieces. So I just fold them over, and then I'm just going to tape them on the back with a piece of Scotch tape. And then once I have them both taped, I put foam tape on the back of those before adhering them to the pattern paper. And then once I've got those adhered to the pattern paper, I'm going to flip them over again and just use my ATG adhesive to adhere these to the card bases. So get all my adhesive on here, get these adhered to both of my card bases. And then of course I could not finish these without adding some of the sequins. These also come in the kit. They are also sold separately. These are the Frozen Fractals sequin mix. So I poured them into a coffee filter, and it just makes it easier to manage them, so I could pick out the ones I wanted to use. And of course I couldn't decide on just a few, so I used a bunch. So just kind of laid them out on each of the cards how I wanted them. And then I just used my multimedia matte adhesive and my little crystal katana tool, which a lot of people have been asking since I showed it in my haul video. I have used it a few times since and shown it in I think 1 or 2 videos. I love it. So much better than the quick stick. I love this. It picks them out great, and then when you press it down on the adhesive, they come off so easily. I love this tool. So got all my sequins adhered into place, and then cleaned off my stamps with the little Lawn Fawn stamp chamois so I don't have the pigment ink drying on them. It's just easier to clean if you clean them while they're still wet, or while the ink is still wet. So yeah, and that finished off my cards. So as always, I will have links below the video to my blog post, links to all the supplies used. All that info will be in the description box below. Thank you all so much for watching, subscribing, and thumbs upping my videos, and I will see you all very soon in the next one. Bye!